The 2010 IAAF World Half Marathon Championships was held in Nanning, China on 16 October 2010. The competition took place on the city streets, beginning and ending at Wuxiang Square, with a total prize purse of $245,000 at stake. The Kenyan athletes emerged with both the individual and team titles in the men's and women's races. Despite limited experience in top-level half-marathon races, Kiprop and Florence Kiplagat won the respective races. Kiprop broke races.Despite's winning streak, which dated back to 2006, out-sprinting the defending champion in the final stages. Sammy Kitwara won the men's bronze medal and helped Kenya to the men's team title. Led by Races, the Eritrean men beat Ethiopia to the team silver medal spot. Kiplagat, who was ever present at the front of the women's race, outdid Ethiopian Tune in the last kilometer to win her second gold medal on the global stage. Mirroring Kitwara, Kenya's women's bronze medalist Penina Jeriparuse secured the team's victory over Ethiopia. Representing the hosts, Joshalan was the only non-African to reach the top 8 at the championships. The joint effort of the Japanese women aided them to a 6th consecutive team bronze medal, making them the only medaling country outside of the typically strong African triumvirate of Kenya, Ethiopia and Eritrea. A total of 30 countries were represented at the 19th edition of the competition, and 123 runners altogether were entered into the men's and women's races. The event was the final edition to be held on an annual schedule, as the competition switched to a biennial format for the 2012 championships. Organization: the city of Nanning was announced as the host venue for the 2010 World Half Marathon Championship at the IAAF Council meeting in Monaco in November 2008. The winning bid was a continuation of a series of major international athletics events in the People's Republic of China, which included the 2006 World Junior Championships and a highly successful athletics competition at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. It was the first time that China hosted the competition, becoming the second Asian country to do so after India, which held the 2004 edition in New Delhi. The local organizing committee was headed by the Nanning Sports Bureau and worked in conjunction with the Chinese Athletics Association and the IAAF. The event gained a high-profile title sponsor in Sinopec, the major Chinese state-owned petroleum corporation. The competition featured an original event mascot, an anthropomorphic ox, called RNIU, which was dressed in the traditional costume of the Zhuang people. In addition to the primary events of the day, the competition was held in conjunction with Nanning's 28th Liberation Day celebrations, and mass races over 10 kilometers and 4 kilometers were also held. The Chinese state broadcaster CCTV showed live television coverage of the event via helicopter format. Continuing in the tradition of previous editions, the championships comprised separate half-marathon road races for men and women, with each race having an individual and international team aspect. Each nation could enter a maximum of 5 athletes per race, and the team scores were calculated by combining the finishing times of each team's top 3 runners. Nations with less than 3 runners were disregarded for the team event, and the runners competed for the individual prizes only. Athletes typically gained selection for the country in one of 2 ways: through recent performances on the international road running circuit, or via a performance at of specially designated half-marathon national championships. A total prize money pot of $245,000 was available to athletes at the championships, with awards being given those placing from 1st to 6th in both the individual and team sections. The amounts on offer for each competition were equal across the sexes. The top prize for the individual race winners was $30,000, while the 3 athletes in the winning teams earned a share of $15,000. A further $50,000 was provided as an incentive for runners who improved upon the half-marathon world record mark. But ultimately this award was not claimed at the 2010 championships. All athletes receiving prize money needed to submit to and pass a doping test in order to claim their award. Course. The half-marathon course was designed in a double-looped, or figure-8, format which had Wuxiang Square as the central start and finish point for the race, situated just off Nanning's Minzu Avenue. The route left the square in a westerly direction along Minzu Avenue, before turning north on Binhu Road. It turned left onto Chang'u Road and followed Dongaj Road up to the Guangxi People's Hall, which was around the 8 kilometers mark. Turning back eastwards via Mincheng Road and Gonghe Road, the route ran along the straightway of Minzu Avenue, passing the halfway marker at this point. The race is then headed right to go south along Shuangyong Road and Kingshan Road, passing the Qingzhou flyover on the way, going northwards along Jushi Avenue. The race came up to the Nanning International Convention and Exhibition Centre and headed east on Minzu Road before doubling back via Kingshiu Road, tracing a path alongside the Admiral City Shopping Mall. The route went east to return the starting point of Wuxiang Square. There was little elevation on the generally flat course, which ranged between 8 and 12 meters wide along the route. The championships were held on the 16th of October 2010. The women's race began at 8:30 a.m. a local time and the men's competition began half an hour after this. In addition to the elite races, a complimentary mass fun run event of 10 kilometers and 4 kilometers was held for the people of Nanning. The competitions took place in the morning in order to avoid the heat of the day in what is one of China's most southerly cities. Nanhu Park was the designated training area for the athletes in attendance. Medalists. Men's race. The favorite for the men's race was Eritrean runner Zersane Tadis, who had broken the world record earlier that year with a run of 58 to 23 minutes at the Lisbon Half Marathon. Newly minted African champion Wuxiang Kiprop was the most prominent of the Kenyan contingent, which was the clear favorite for the team title through its horde of sub-60-minute runners including Sammy Kitwara, Silas Kipruto and Moses Mosop. Other contenders were Ethiopian Lelis Adesiza and Eritrean Samuel Zege. Kenya was the defending champion in the team race. The hot and humid conditions in Nanning slowed the runners' pace and 12 of them remained within the main pack by the 10 kilometers point. The following 5 kilometers was decisive for the race as Samuel Zege, Titus Masai and Mosop were all left trailing. The leading 4 runners were soon reduced to 3, as Kipruto fell away to leave Zersane Tadis, Wuxiang Kiprop and Sammy Kitwara to battle for the medal positions. Zersane and Kiprop were neck and neck in the lead from the last kilometer and it was Kiprop who pulled away in the final 100 meters to break the Eritreans' 4-year undefeated streak. Zersane faded badly at the end and appeared injured after taking second place. Kitwara and Kipruto were third and fourth, sealing the Kenyan team victory, while Samuel Segai's fifth place helped Eritrea to the team silver. The win continued Kiprop's meteoric rise of 2010, a year in which he had gone from a low-profile circuit runner to the 10,000 meters Kenyan and African champion. With with a sub-60-minute half-marathon best after wins in Paris and Lille. Silver medalist Zersane received some consolation as he was given the Ames Citizen World's Fastest Time Award days after the competition in respect of his position as world record holder, becoming only the second half-marathon athlete to be selected for the accolade after Lorna Kiplagat. There were no surprise breakthroughs in the men's race as all the top performers were those predicted to make an impact before the race. However, there were some other achievements of note, including Kitwera's first individual medal for Kenya, personal bests for Burhan Ubekel and Tom Moya Onishi in 8th and 9th place respectively, and a national record for Bhutanese race Pasang. Men's results totals: 68 starters, 68 finishers, 26 nations represented, 11 national teams ranked. Women's race. The provisional favorite for the women's race was Kenyan runner Florence Kiplagat, who was the fastest entrant in the field through her win at the Lille half-marathon in September. Her compatriots Penina Aruse and Sarah Chepchirchir, second and third in Lille, completed the strongest three of the Kenyan women's team, which was considered the team to beat for the title. The Ethiopians, led by Boston Marathon winner Diatune, were the main opposition for the team race, although the nation had sent relatively inexperienced runners to the championships on this occasion. China's leading athlete was Zhou Shaolin, who despite being an established marathon runner had less experience over the half distance. Although Japan lacked a leading figure individually, their overall consistency demonstrated the team pedigree. Kenya entered the tournament as the reigning team champions. The beginning to the race highlighted the dominance of the Kenyan and Ethiopian runners as they set a high tempo from the outset. By the time the first 5 kilometers marker was passed, Australia's Nikki Chappell was the only athlete left in the leading pack to come from outside of the two historically strong nations. A few kilometers later, she dropped back from the pack, and at the 10 kilometers mark 5 Ethiopians and 4 Kenyans had a 15-second advantage on the rest of the field. As the race reached the midway point, the temperature began to increase and the heat and humidity reduced the pace of the runners. The conditions took the toll on some of the leaders in this section of the race. Chepchirchir slowed considerably while Meseret Mengistu, Joyce Chepkurui and Faitola were the next to gradually lose contact with the front runners. Kiplagat, Dia, Iruse and Faiz Tadis were the sole contenders remaining as the race headed towards the final stages. But Kiplagat and Dia soon left the other two trailing a few minutes later. Despite Dia's greater experience over long distances, it was Kiplagat who forged ahead in the last kilometer, and she won the race with 10 seconds to spare over her Ethiopian rival. Aruse was the third across the line half a minute later, while Faiz Tadis, Joyce Chepkurui, Meseret Mengistu and Faitola took places 4 to 7, around 1 minute behind the winner. It was Aruse's clear third place which proved the difference between the top African teams. Kenya won the team gold by a margin of 34 seconds over Ethiopia. A strong final phase saw Zhou Shaolin take 8th place for the hosts, which was the best non-African individual performance that year. Japan's Yoshimi Ozaki and Ryoko Kazaki were immediately behind her, failing to get a top 8 finish but yet again leading the country to the team bronze with a buffer of over 6 minutes between them and Australia. Kiplagat collected her first international road running title in only her second effort over the half-marathon distance, her second world title, after the senior crown at the 2009 IAAF World Cross Country Championships. She said her next priority would be taking a medal on the track. That is my goal for next year and at the next Olympics. For Dia and Aruse, Day, both prolific road runners. This was the first individual medal on the world stage. The younger Ethiopians missed out on the medals but still set personal bests for the half marathon, as did Kenyan Joyce Chepkurui. Women's results totals: 55 starters, 51 finishes, 22 nations represented, 10 teams ranked. Participation: a total of 30 nations were represented at the championships, with a combined total of 123 male and female athletes in attendance. 5 countries entered, the maximum of 5 athletes per race: Ethiopia, Japan, Kenya, South Africa, and the United States. British runner Andrew Lemoncello was scheduled to be his country's sole representative in the men's race, but he was refused entry into the country without explanation, causing a dispute between UK Athletics and the Chinese Athletic Association.